Hey, what's good everybody? My name is Alckemy. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at Sononym. This was provided to me by the company Sononym. Thank you so much. But I reached out to them to see if they would send me a review copy because I had this hope that something like this existed, which was something that will go through your entire library of samples and categorize everything to where it will find specific categories of sound for you and allow you to organize them all into a single folder or something. And this is that answer. There are some free alternatives that I have not tried. I think one is from ADSR Sounds, like Mixcloud or Loopcloud or something. But this one in particular is pretty straightforward to use, and I have had some pretty good success with it. It's important to note that this isn't perfect, but let's take a look at what this does. So if you look on the left, you'll see that there's a lot of these unnamed samples, which would be called BB something something something. And what this basically is are exports from Rolling Sampler. And if you're not familiar with Rolling Sampler, what's really cool about Rolling Sampler is that it's constantly recording on the back end of whatever you set it to, and it goes to your RAM. But what you can do is you can highlight a piece of this and just pull it out into your timeline. But the issue with it is that while it does maintain the BPM, this is just random jargon sample labels that I can't tell what it is unless if I'm looking at the sample size. So you could probably expect that as this continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, it's kind of difficult to sort this out and figure out what is what. And while I could, just go maybe sample size and maybe do a guesstimate of, like, I'm sure something in here is a drum or a kick and a snare, and just find one that I like. Let me see. Like, that's a cool snare or whatever. It's a lot more convenient for me to search through all of this stuff and then figure out, like, where my kicks and where my snares are. So it's important to note that, as you can hear, like, it's not perfect and it's not like the end all be all solution, but this is machine learning, and so it's constantly getting better the more that you search with it and whatnot. And it's not terrible. You will notice that whenever you pull some stuff up on here, that sometimes you're going to get some empty, I guess, like sample categories and whatnot. And so what you can do is you can listen to this, right click this, and then you can assign a category to this, maybe like bass and low keys is what I would call this, and then that'll be labeled for you. So the reason why this is really cool, at least for me, is because I'm somebody that makes a lot of sample packs and stuff. What I can do is go into something like bass and low keys, and then I can take all of this and move this into a brand new folder without touching where the original location is. So it creates a copy of it. And now some people might be like, yo, that's like, why would I do that? For me, I would do that because a lot of these sounds are embedded within projects. And while collect all and save would be the workaround to this, so that way you don't even have to like mess with this, sometimes things get caught up, and I've already had to go back like 6 months and try to relocate some samples that I accidentally deleted or renamed or whatever. And so this just creates a copy, so you can do a fresh, basically like start off of that. So basically, if I create a new folder here and we open this up, then what I can do is move all this stuff over, and you'll see here that this has like different notes and whatnot. And for me, I'm not too concerned with that, or the BPM for that matter. What I am concerned with is just the fact that these are all basses. So what I can do is listen to some of these. Great. And I will just click and drag all of these into the folder. So hold on one second. Sorry, trying to make space for this on my screen. Here we are. And now I can grab all of this and highlight this and just move it into a new folder, which it says that there's 182 of these. And now you'll see that this is creating a copy of this into new stuff. And from this, with all these sounds or whatever, even though you'll see that some of these are labeled with like bass chops and all that, I can right click all of these and go, oops, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to right click and go rename. I can call this Alckemy basses. And now with this rename file, I've got a whole list of all of these that should be renamed. And so what's really neat about that is that it makes it a lot easier to figure out how to create these sample packs, or if you want to, you can delete the original locations or set a new thing on here that will categorize all these samples for you. That's pretty much what this software does as far as the most useful piece of it. Again, it's not perfect, and I do wish that there were a couple more categories. Like, for example, there's no like drum loop on here. There's breaks and smashes, but when I think of breaks, I think of drum breaks. Even within these loops and these other categories and whatnot, you know what I mean? Like a drum break or like something like that would be super helpful. And I don't know, just thinking about different categories that this could be sorted into would be helpful. And then of course, with some of this stuff, like you can see that none of this has any categories on it. So I don't know what this is. Okay, so that would also go within like bases and stuff. But once you have it, then it's there, and that could be a, you know, organizational thing. And I don't have to do any typing, so that's not that terrible. But, you know, what can you say? It's going to get better over time. Now, the other thing that is cool is that if for whatever reason you want to kind of just take a portion of this, then you can just say, hey, I'm just going to grab this part and then pull it out. And then there's also this sample relevancy thing that I haven't gotten to work super great, but still kind of technically is supposed to work well, which is, hey, I like this sound, but I want to find something like it. And so you'll see that there's the stuff based off of timbre, off of pitch, off of amplitude, overall, spectrum. And what this will do is it'll categorize these and find stuff that's relatively similar, right? Based off of the OSTPA, which is all of these. So, you know, within that, I could be like, oh, okay, there's a cool little like bass variation. I swear I don't remember making any of these, but it doesn't matter. But within that, you can use that, and then you can drag that into your timeline, or you can create a specific pack based off of that if you want to. So you can also export this without dragging. I find that the export, I think all it really does is just move it to a designated folder, which is kind of just a different way of doing this, but I think that just dragging it out is easier. As far as how long it takes for you to find a new library, if I were to add something new, maybe we'll just go claps. You can see how long this takes. So this is indexing, and that just went into nothing. I think that that's because I created this folder actually doesn't have anything, but let's try a different folder in here. Maybe let's go January 24th. And now that's not doing anything either. I think that these are all empty. Yeah. Sorry about that. Let's try January 23rd, because I know this has samples in it. There we go. Okay, so we're going to get out of this, and this will pull all of this stuff up, and you'll see that it's indexing, and I don't know how many samples I have in here, but it's already starting to try to focus on sorting everything and categorize this for you. And even though there's a lot of stuff that is unlabeled, it still is at least able to categorize something as a short sample or a long sample, so a loop or a one shot. The thing with MudPies and stuff is that you can't really expect it to detect something like that that's like random or whatever, but within the 200 samples that we have here, what we can at least do is categorize this stuff, or, you know, find what it can and be like, all right, here are some claps. We can get out of this or just close this and be like, okay, let's find our snares. So let's find those claps again. There's one clap, which is a clap. Cracks and rustles. Which again isn't perfect, but at the same time, you know, you can utilize all this and find some stuff that works. I think the big thing is just hopefully that this will improve, especially because the majority of these are unlabeled. But if you're making a specific pack or something like that, and you get into this workflow of, hey, I'm going to make specific loops or something that is more contemporary, then I think that this will do a better job of that. The only thing that I wish that this also had was, if you choose to export, I wish that there was a way to maybe downsample stuff to like 44.1 at 24-bit, or add dithering or normalization or something that could actually edit the samples themselves. Because while I wouldn't necessarily want to do like crazy audio editing to this, that can be helpful, you know, of just being like, hey, let's raise this to the maximum volume to get that ready. That means that you still have to go and utilize this at the very beginning and make sure that everything sounds up to snuff, or do it the opposite way to where you're like, all right, I've got all my samples, now put it all in a project and now fix them, or something of the sort. So yeah, aside from there, one other thing that is cool is that you can do like live recording into here and then try to find similar samples. I don't really find that to be super necessary on my end, but it is a feature that they offer. But for $100, you know, I feel like this is a really good step in the right direction for figuring out how to get all these unnamed samples, BB, unlabeled, 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 into something that's at least kind of tangible. You know, I mean, even if all this stuff is loops, which it is, you know, I could at least categorize all this stuff into, you know, random loops, and then just find everything that's 85 BPM and go loops 85 BPM, or loops at 62 ppm, or something of the sort. So anyways, I think that it's definitely worth a trial. I wouldn't say buy it, but definitely give it a shot and see if it works out for you. And definitely also try out the Loop Cloud or Mix Cloud, or it's one of those, I can't remember which one it is, and figure out how to best get a sample organizer, especially with random sounds. Anyways, I appreciate you all watching. Thank you so much. Thank you to Sononym for sending me a copy of this, and I can't wait to see what you all do with it in the future. Bye.